All right, what's up, guys? It's your boy No Name. Just got to do a quick hitter, talk about the new patch, Diablo 1, patch 1.1.0. Just dropped its patch notes, and I want to go ahead and do a quick hitter. Or it's quick hitter. It's a long patch notes. They said what 6,600 words or something like that, and I mean you can see on both pages. I have the different pages, but you can see it's quite a scroll. So we're gonna do a kind of a quick hitter because I'm not gonna go through every change in detail or anything like that. Especially considering I don't play most of these classes like that, and I don't want to give off the image that I talk about things that I don't know, but I will give some opinions based on something that I've heard or just things that I can tell from reading it, right? And then we're going to talk about some how I feel about the patch overall and how that's going to pan out into season one, and a little bit of Sork thinking because you'll see. Like, I have some thoughts about the class I played the most in the preseason, getting some changes. All right, so number one, we got 6 new uniques and 7 new aspects getting added. You can read all of these in detail. The ones that caught my eye when I first saw them were Lidless Wall, because Bone Storm is something I was playing around with on paper a lot regarding with Necro. And the Oculus, just because I think this effect is extremely funny. I think it's bad, but I think it's extremely funny. As far as the other thing of note here is that there is a new Uber unique, a variant Sphere of Lycander, which is going to come with a random shrine effect for 10 to 20 seconds after killing an elite. I think this effect would be a lot more well received if conduit pylons didn't actively feel worse than having your real character at a certain point. But we'll see how I feel about them when we actually get it on our hands. Pretty cool effect nonetheless. So that's the uniques. Uniques are pretty cool overall. Azure Wrath, the nice nod to the past and stuff. Lidless Wall, a nod as well. Like these are cool nods, but some of these I'm not super interested in the effects personally. I think all of them are actually do have uses. I'm just not super like moved by them. I'm a little bit more moved by these aspects, specifically Craven. I'm pretty sure Audacity actually might be good, but Craven's the one I'm really looking at. Source of movement speed, even though it's for only running away, I really wish it was just like a lower amount, but it was just generally for having slowed or chilled enemies nearby or something. I think that would be way better. This is a take that's just influenced by my time on Necro, just because I think that that class could always use more movement speed. Um, but other than that, I think these are good. I think these are good. That's a good aspect. Audacity is also pretty nice. I think it's probably a little weak, but it's something I have to play with. I didn't drop it in a little bit. I played today. I haven't had a whole lot of time to play it today. I've been busy. Um, Other things here that I saw. I don't know how strong this charge one is. I didn't play a barb like that. This poison creeper one is. I'm extremely excited for Subterranean. It actually made me consider just like changing my plan to be a druid next season because I really like poison creeper. I really do. And so more ways to scale off of poison creeper, especially considering like adding earth poison scaling is pretty cool. But we'll have to see how that pans out. If I hope I hear stuff about it, but I'll even try it myself at some point. Should this season actually captivate me. Bloodlance one is really strong. Unfortunately, not the skill I wanted to see get buffed from Necro, but I'm glad that this is actually a good one and it's not interacting with, we're not talking about Bone Spear or anything at all. Bloodlance, if you don't know, is actually a pretty good build. Outside of this performance issues it causes where it literally breaks the game because of like damage instance count registration against suppressor enemies or something like that. I have to go find the video again, but that's one thing that I remember seeing. Good skill though. Pestilent Point seems like a really cool. I'm hoping it makes basic attack builds viable, but I have a feeling it's just going to be used as a engine of sorts for poison imbue builds. But I'm hoping that somebody will come up with like a basic build for it. And seeing wards depresses me. Yeah, like just depresses me. I'm not even going to pretend that I'm excited for seeing wards. I don't actually like Firewall much as a skill, but I just feel like when I looked at all these other ones and I saw potentially really interesting effects, seeing that an offensive aspect slot is cost is free firewall and can destroy projectiles. Like, couldn't have even at least made it a utility effect or something. Like, that's not an offensive effect. I'm very turned off by this, but we'll see how I feel about it when I get my hands on it. Overall, pretty cool with the new stuff that's being added. A couple new things. I have some more macro takes on this as we get through this. There's a lot of bug fixes, and I mean a lot of bug fixes. The ones that I want to hit on the most in here, because I'm not gonna go through all this, but some of these that are very important. Hoda has this interaction with ancestral echoes fixed, which is unfortunate or well reasonable, but unfortunate. And then also berserk ripping, skull breakers, and anemia. This also was a really strong damage stacking combo. So see that this also got fixed. This will be the thing. Fuck it, Hoda just got like reamed, but it is what it is. They fix some stuff there. I just wanted to highlight this because it's in the bug fixes and not in the balance changes. I have a take about this as well that I hate when people do when companies do. And Sork also has a really big bug fix in the form of aspect of control no longer applying its damage bonus 3 times for staggered bosses. This I think everyone thought was a feature this entire time, and so finding out that it's actually a bug is extremely upsetting. Just to show you really quickly what I'm talking. If you don't play a Sork, I can just show you really quickly like why this one upsets me. That's especially that's stuck in the like bug fixing section and not in a balance section somewhere. So I think it's right here. No, it's on this character. It's on my weapon maybe. Where did I put it at? Oh, here we go. Aspect of control. Oh, nice. You can see the regular effect too, because I don't have it on amulet on ice shards. I had it on my amulet when I was playing Arclash. But so 25 to 35% more damage to immobilize, stun, and present enemies. And the entire time that we've been playing the game, it's been known knowledge that you get a bonus for each of those effects on an enemy. And so a staggered boss, for example, is taking 33% on 33% on 33%, and the damage stacks up like crazy. You get to something like 64 over 27. You're like doing over 2.2 times the damage that you were doing before. It feels incredible. Having this down to only 1 point whatever is really sad to hear about for boss purposes, because I already didn't think that our damage was too good on bosses pre-stagger. And this is just a massive kick in the balls to our post-stagger damage. But overall, like I did some testing with it and it still feels fine. It made my pushing upwards into like 65 to 70 territory a little bit harder. But like that's not the biggest thing that was tripping me up in the 65 to 70 pushing. Like you'll see. So overall, like I'm a little upset. Mostly I'm upset that it's just put in the bug fixes section. I understand that it's a bug fix, but it should at least be alluded to in your balance changes section or something. Like, because most people see bug fixes and just like skip. Like, you see how many bug fixes there are in here? There's so many words, bro. And I'm a nerd, so I read all of it. But there's so many words. I wish I was just like highlighted a little bit better, but whatever. Other things I don't think there was any other bug fixes that I thought were super worth it. Oh yeah, this one is another one. If you were relying on things like the crossbow from that one enemy in Hawazar, F rip the 835 weapons and whatnot, that you will be missed. Other than that, most of this other stuff is just whatever. A lot of changes. You can read all through that on your own. All right, so let's get to the meat and potatoes, the stuff that's like really important, right? Or the more important stuff now. Account-wide unlocks are now there for altars and masks. Make sure you log into a character with these progression points unlocked before the patch goes live, right? Before the 20th at 10 a.m. PST. Before we hit then, make sure you get those logins so you can not have to interact with all that stuff. There's also some other loot changes and whatnot. Loot for silent chests no longer sucks. Whispers. Yeah. So let's talk about the first big thing in here. XP. And now you would think that the world tier section is what I'm going to talk about it in, but we're going to talk about it here first. The channel time for leaving the dungeon ability has been increased from 3 to 5 seconds. That is not that change strictly is to fuck with people's speed farming. That's the whole point of this change, and it's so stupid. Fuck you, Blizzard. Now, on to the rest of stuff here. There's some world tier changes. World tier 2, this looks like it might almost be worth considering in the back half of your leveling. Like, if you're still in the 1 to 50 section, I think like when you're like 40 plus, it might actually be worth playing in World Tier 2 a little bit longer now, instead of just going to World Tier 2 when it's time to go World Tier 3, just for the increase in items and gold so that you can start to get your economy rolling a little bit better before hitting World Tier 3. But even then, I don't know. I don't think so. Haven't tested yet. Gonna research before Thursday. Other than that, we have some level scaling changes. Which the big thing is you will no longer be on level for everything you ever do once you're above the level minimum, right? So, like, for example, you know that when you go into tier 4, level 73 monsters were everything until you got there. That's going to now be 75, as you see here in the world tier 4 example. But the bigger thing now is that they will only increase in level to maintain being 5 levels behind you instead of being on level with you. This makes overworld content substantially easier, uh, which I think is okay. Like, I think that's fine. I don't think the regular overworld content should be difficult. And it's worth noting, this change does not affect world bosses, legion events, fields of hatred, hell tides, or nightmare dungeons. So the things that actually matter, that are considered, I guess, end game content in their design, are not affected by this change. And this is mostly for just walking around, completing whispers, pushing up a new tier, doing questing, whatever it may be. If you're farming events for something, like if you're trying to farm obolos, who knows? Like, I think altogether, these changes do not affect you, or these changes are affected in that region, and I think these are good changes for that reason. Then, let's talk about, there's some XP for, now we're at the XP section. So, reward XP for completing whispers. That's cool and all. Let's get into the wall of text. I'm going to ignore all of this extra text for a second, because I think the important part is right here. Let me really focus us in on where in the world. Oh yeah, here we go. Let's focus in on the important piece right here. You are level 1, and your friends bring you to world tier 4 and leave at the entrance of a dungeon, and they're killing level 100 monsters. Currently, well, before this patch went live, like as the time of recording, the patch is live. Like, I'm on the server right now in the background. Prior to this update, you would get level 100 monster XP that then was boosted by 25% because of the difference between your level and the monster's level. That is now going to be a level 11 X monster XP and 15%. Is power leveling still going to be faster than doing it yourself? Obviously. Monsters just simply will die faster and you'll clear zones faster. But oh my god, the difference in value is insane. They basically just full stop ran it over with a not even a truck, maybe a semi, but honestly I think like an industrial tank would do better to describe what just happened to power leveling. This is a ridiculous speed decrease to power leveling, people. In addition, they talk about a little bit about how the bonus is. So if you didn't know before, fighting one level above you was a 15% bonus CXP, 20% for 2 and 25 for 3. That is now 1.5% per level up to 10 levels over you. So even at the maximum bonus, it's still worse than what we had before the patch. And I guess I don't even really have thoughts about this. Not right now. I just, tell you how it is. And also, offsets to make it known that you cannot get just XP for being carried around forever. This is and this is kind of upsetting because so it's a big nerf to power leveling, but it actually does affect some builds that were just capable of pushing further up. And you could say that those builds are kind of a problem. Like, for example, I was running dungeons with my buddy who was playing Bone Spear when I was leveling to 100, and like, even though the levels were 20, 25 levels above him, it just did not matter. His damage was just that high. And so this kind of punishes those types of builds a little bit, but like those builds probably, I guess their philosophy is those builds shouldn't even be a thing that we consider anyways. So fuck it. So the combination of the offset changes, which is what you see here from going level 100 to level 100 to level 11, and the percent bonuses, the 25 to 15%, you get a massively nerfed leveling experience across the board that I feel like is going to draw a lot of ire in the first weekend. Especially considering we had just got the buffs that made leveling feel so good. I think this is going to be a massive step back that people are gonna like recoil from. Even just like, for example, running keys that were like signals that were giving you 25%, only gonna be giving you like 4.5 to 6% now. You're gonna feel it all the way through. It's not gonna feel the greatest. I'm a little bothered by it. It just feels like a weird step in the wrong direction, but it is what it is. However, Outside monsters are now a few levels higher at least. And you know, right when they make one good change and all of this nonsense, mysteries chest up to 250. Why? 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 Painful. I think this is not worded this way in the notes, but I'm pretty sure this has to do with we're trying to disincentivize farming strategies that revolved around doing like reset, like event farming, hitting the mysteries and waiting for the next set to reset. There's a setup where you could get 6 chests of mysteries in a single hell tide, for example. I believe that this is probably what this is targeted at. Which I don't love that this is a change I'm going for, but hey, look, okay, fine. I understand the intent at least. All right, let's get into balance updates. I'm gonna read this blurb first, and then I'm gonna hit like some of the stuff that I saw in each class that was very important and whatnot. I'm not gonna go into too much detail again on the classes I didn't play because I don't want to like I don't know a whole lot about some of the ones I don't play, but there are some things that stand out to me as huge or terrible, right? So, developer note. As our community continues to battle the burning hells, the builds emerging from new players has shocked us and delighted us. We've chosen to focus Season of Malignance balance updates on clear itemization disparities over redesigns of class features. The class changes are largely focused on numeric increases to skill upgrades and legendary aspects that players haven't yet found compelling. Additionally, we're changing critical strike damage paragon glyphs to empower all damage that have only core skills to enable more build strategies. And there are a few class stat decreases on sources that grant extreme amounts of damage, healing, or unstoppable. Because in general, we prefer build-specific changes to be bonuses instead of decreases, but we feel that these nerfs are necessary for the overall health of the game. Diablo 4 is a game that is continually evolving through its seasons, and thus the adjustments we make will evolve with them. All right, so what does all that mean? It's a lot of mumbo jumbo. So the most important change here, by the way, is not actually that there's things getting nerfed. It's this line right here about the Paragon glyph. This was one of my number one concerns, actually, when I was complaints playing around with builds, is that a large part of why I think there's some monotony in building across classes is that you couldn't use your crit glyph on other shit besides your core skills. Because, like, for example, Sork has an entire category called Mastery Skills, but I can't get crit damage for my Mastery Skills. Or, you know, Arc Lash is a basic skill build. Can't use crit damage glyph on that even though the entire build is scaled around crit. Because, oh no, Arc Lash isn't a core skill. And Ball Lightning, the main skill you wanted to trigger, also isn't a core skill. So, I thought this was really stupid. So I'm glad that this got changed. Crit damage was too powerful to be like this. They should have just done this. If they were going to do something like this, it should have just been percent core damage, like there is for percent mastery on Sork. Other than that, here we get into a little bit of a think piece. We've chosen to focus on itemization disparities over redesign of class features. I'm going to talk about this at the end of the notes section, but just know this line bothers me. I just want you to keep that in the back of your mind. I do not like this line at all. So let's talk about it for a second. Barb, a lot of changes to things that I don't understand. But everything in here looked like buffs when I rolled over it, except for I'm not sure what to think about the Gore's Devastating Grips change. Because it's no longer damage capped. Or hit capped, but it just explodes periodically now. I don't know if it's better or worse. I think it might be better for general mapping, but worse for overall other stuff. I just realized. So this is probably slaking, but I just saw this and saw a lot of the Pokemon slacking, like the fucking giant. You know the Pokemon I'm talking about, right? I hope you do. If I had an editor, I'd put it up on screen, but I don't have an editor. Maybe I'll figure out how to do that at some point. Yeah, you'll see every class has the note about their core crit damage rune now being all skills. This is going to be big across the board for all classes. For example, skills that crit generate fury. I mean, again, most classes are still probably going to lean on their core skills anyways, but it's just, it's good to see that this is just, less prohibitive. All right, some other stuff. Right, Druid, big ones in here that I saw of note. Storm Strike got a DR nerf. I'm not surprised by this at all. I thought Storm Strike was an extremely overloaded generator since it had good generation plus full application on an upgrade plus DR. That was more than the basic attack, the like basic skills DR aspect of might. Uh, can't. Not surprised that this never happened at all. I have to give a shout out to Boulder just because of a friend. A friend was praying for Boulder buffs, and he got his buffs. Substantial buff to Boulder. No idea if it makes it any good. Haven't talked to him about it yet. Yeah, he just kind of reacted excitedly, but then he had to do some stuff. Other major change here: Grizzly Rage. Prime Grizzly Rage now only grants assault for 6 seconds instead of the entire time that it's active. This is a massive, massive nerf to uptime of Unstoppable for these classes, for Druid. Other things, Spirit, working on all skills now. Masochistic. So I'm going to lump Masochistic in with something else real quick because I want to talk about both of these at once. Masochistic and Siphoning Strikes both got their healing tied to a 75% lucky hit chance. And I wish that was the end of the story. Like, I wish that was cut, paste, boom, just a 25% proc rate nerf to the skill, and that's it. But notice it says lucky hit chance. That is so important. Because it means not only do you have to crit, but you have to lucky hit proc. And if you remember, lucky hit scales based on the skill you use. Like, look at this, for example. Caltrops has a lucky hits coefficient of 25%. Whereas, hold on, let me see if I can find another skill on. Wow, nothing else here is a rogue skill. Oh, rapid fire. Nope, that's an upgrade. Where's another skill? Here we go. Sword Strike is also 25. Cataclysm. There we go. 62%. Proc coefficient and chance. This is a massive nerf to these healing passes, and it's passed off as something that's very light. If you didn't catch the words lucky hit, I wanted to make sure that you heard that clearly. Look, the changes to Masochistic and Siphoning Strikes are brutal to your self-sustain, and everyone who's played with it so far today has had nothing but complaints about how squishy they are now. Do not be fooled by the light wording on, oh, it's 75% proc instead of 100. No, it's far worse than that. It is rough. Otherwise, a lot more buffs. There is a nerf to Symbiotic, which is a core part of a build. Nature's Fury, whenever it triggers a free skill, your non-ultimate CDs of the other side, so Storm and Earth, they were ping-ponging back and forth. They nerfed this aspect. Everything else here got buffed. Shout out to Shepherd's aspect. Love this aspect. And then there's some buffs to uniques. Otherwise, decent changes to those things, but massive nerf to the Unstop, for example. Necromancer. Lots of buffs. For me personally, the Supreme Blood Wave change, where it just make the Blood Waves earlier, is really nice because of what I plan on using Blood Wave for. I'm just really happy about that. Also, the Priest giving more healing is somewhat nice to hear about. It's a bit of a fix to the early game issues I have with some of the minions, but I wish they could do a little bit more to it. Other changes are good. I didn't see anything in here that I thought was ridiculous. Slight nerf. This one right here also made me happy because I loved playing my Shadowblight Necro. I'll probably do it again. This is going to be a part of that if I do it. Essence now affecting everything. This is going to be fucking crazy. There was one more change for Necro that I saw that I was like, where is it? Oh, yeah, here we go. Splintering aspect. If you were a Bone Sphere Necro, yeah, your Bone Spear aspect might or might not have gotten touched. From 50 to 100% to 30 to 60%. This is a massive nerf. Much deserved. You guys have seen how much damage Bone Sphere does. That build is nuts, but I just wanted to note it. Also, I like that Osseous is getting a small buff when since there's also some more support for Bone Sphere coming out with the Littlest Wall, and then more unique buffs. All right, that's Necro stuff. There's some lights Necro stuff to talk about. Ready? While I'm thinking about this, if there's anything that you hear me as I'm covering your class that you think like I should have put more attention on, let me know in the comments. Right? Let me have it. I just want because I can't speak on everything if you wouldn't tell me because I didn't play everything to that level. I just didn't have the time. Rogue changes. Pretty standard rogue changes. Again, be wary of this Siphoning Strikes nerf. Shit's rough. Other than that, normal stuff, combat now working fine. Yeah, that's it. Nothing in here was like, oh man, something got nerfed. Just a lot of buffs. Maybe preparation finally finds a use. I really hope somebody finds a home for preparation. It feels bad to like have ultimates as almost as a whole be pretty like niche and utility only. And other than that, the last thing, can I close this down? Oh no, I can't. Okay. The other thing being Sork. All right, class I play, but some thoughts that I like. I mean, lots of number increases. Not gonna think too much about that stuff. Just got number changes and whatnot. Yep. I like the Supreme Deep Freeze change in particular. I just think it was done that it wasn't 100% from before. All right, so Sork actually got some pretty meaningful passive changes, mainly in the form of, again, some stuff getting expanded to mastery skills, and a lot of our defensive nodes got buffed. Align the element scales faster now, so that actually works a little bit easier in active elite combat as opposed to just traveling between elite combats. Mana shield got buffed. This is really good. This was like a massive part of my DR. I believe I still am using it. It's a massive part of my DR. Like that it got buffed. There's also the buff to protection, making my barrier last longer. I'm using any of my cooldowns. I run like 4 or 5 cooldowns, so this is really nice. And then potent warding. I mean, having your duration increase is cool. Like overall, just a bunch of defensive buffs to being a Sork, which we kind of need, especially as I get deeper into these notes. And there's a crit damage nerfs, which is a big thing that they talked about with itemization disparities. And then a lot of other generic changes that I will not bore you with the details of. Not until I make my theory video for what I'm going to play for next season. And then a lot of general stuff. All right, general aspects changes and whatnot. Disobedience got a pretty big nerf, going from a maximum of 50% armor to a maximum of 30% armor. And I tested this today. You can tell the difference even on a Sork. If I can feel it on a Sork, I can imagine what this feels like on other classes. On a Sork, I will no longer be running Disobedience. I will probably be using things like Snowblind. Is Snowblind the name of it? 1 second. Let me test it. Let me find the name of the one I'm thinking of. There's a light version of one that I was thinking of that like would definitely be something I'd use more. So Snow Guards is decent if I were actually playing a wizard, but I don't like that one too much. There's another one that like actually, it's a drop only one. Son of a bitch. There's one for, it's either when you have a barrier or like against crowd controlled enemies. Let me see if I can find it. Oh, they changed the font on everything in here. I just noticed. I didn't see this earlier when I was playing because I didn't like spend a lot of time looking at the items. But it's really obvious to me now that I'm like looking in here. Where did this piece go? Sorry, you have to see this. I didn't really like play. This part was unplanned. I like did a good job of like thinking through most of what I was going to talk about. Then I realized I wanted to talk about this like one thing like in the moment, but I have no idea where I'm keeping it now. All right, you know what? Fuck it. At some point, I will find this and I will talk about it. But right now, apparently, is not that time. Cool. I now look like the crazy guy who's just like, no, guys, I swear it was here. I swear. If you just turn over that rock. I promise I'm not insane. Not for that reason, anyways. I will say the one thing I liked about this video change is that if you do actually choose to use it, it's easier to get it ramped back up after falling out of combat. But I don't think that's a compelling enough reason to use it. Retribution is a generic one that got nerfed damage wise. Understandable. Give a lot of damage considering how easy it is to stun things. Exploiters got nerfed. I do not like this. I think exploiters served a very important purpose in the game, and I don't think it should have gotten nerfed. But the Starlight's nice. I didn't think Starlight was strong enough. Okay. Drop rate boost, which this sums up to you drop less items outside of Nightmare Dungeons and Helltides, or at least items that you care about. But in Nightmare Dungeons and Helltides, you drop more items that you care about. So it's basically just the shift in this patch is really removing the focus from generic overworld stuff, such as how people were just farming Champ's Demise and whatnot for items before the Nightmare Dungeon update, and really just putting all that power into Nightmare Dungeons, into Helltides. And this is also included with the 50% chance to get second legendary and 3 rare items upon completion, which I'm just saying, I ran 3 Nightmare Dungeons earlier. I didn't get a single second legendary item. So I'm calling scam on this. You know, 50-50 means I should get it one in every two, right? Right. Obviously not a large enough sample size. I'm just being pissy. But these are good changes overall. Just because I think they buffed the parts of the game that need to be buffed, and I don't think regular drops matter as much. That's a bit of a polarizing take, I feel, but I think it's fine. This change is lame. 100% bonus scaling HP on things that aren't bosses per player is super lame. It just makes it harder to actually play with friends. It just feels like they went too hard on trying to handle boosting, and then some other stuff. Alrighty. All right. I said this was a quick hitter, right? Like I skipped over the majority of the patch just to talk about the important things, and we're still deep in here. All right. I'm gonna blitz through the stats page part though, because the stats part is a lot of additional words. There's some availability or efficacy changes of affixes here in this list. It's worth noting if your thing is noted in here. So, for example, lucky hit a barrier, it gets nerfed, even though it appears for all classes, but it is also now nerfed. Pissy. Um, Otherwise, the stuff getting it clear appear for all classes, but it's whatever. All right, main stat on your weapon, weaker. This I think is not meant to be a nerf to Sork or to like all classes equally, because if you notice, they didn't make any distinctions for classes like say like a barbarian who has 4 weapons equipped, right? I think this is intentionally meant to try to hammer out the effectiveness of stat sticking. And that's how I think some of these changes ended up coming out. And I hope that these changes are gonna I hope that they understand the impact these changes have when referencing stat sticking. Now, CDR got massively nerfed. I'm not a fan, but it's just because it feels worse, right? I worked hard for my CDR. I grinded so hard to get as much CDR as I do have. I do not like seeing it reduced back to numbers that I had when I initially transferred builds, but whatever. I understand because CDR is really rugged. I think they should have just left it alone. I think if they really had an issue with CDR, they should have nerfed the specific CDs that are causing problems. You know, if you're like, man, Sork's Ice Nova or Frost Nova is just too strong, nerf the CD a little bit. Or if you think that there's just too much uptime on like Shadow Imbuement for rogues, like just nerf that cooldown. Don't hit global cooldown reduction. That makes the game feel worse. This one right here. We're seeing critical strike damage and vulnerable damage values as a hard requirement for a build success in this game. This is true. This is flat out true, by the way. What the way that these stats scale is absolutely absurd, especially when factoring in some other factors. And these two nerfs, one on top of the other, are massive for reducing this disparity. So 17% reduce. By the way, this is not minus 17%. Like your weapon that's at 25% is not going to say 8 now. It's just like, so it's like remove a sixth of it. So instead of 25, it's closer to 20 now. And vulnerable damage by 40%. Yeah, massive reductions to these stats alongside CDR on as the implicit on offhand reduced by 35%, crit damage on swords reduced by 50%, and vul reduced by 65% on crossbows. These are massive changes to the numbers. Even just so, like I'm on my Sork. I don't have, a sword or anything. I have my cooldown offhand. You can see, if you want to see the aftermath of the stat changes, before the changes, I was sitting somewhere around, I believe, 45% CDR. I'm now sitting at 33. And the other stat that I definitely lost a lot of is, so like you can see on this weapon, my vul damage roll is now only 12%. That roll was significantly higher before this change. I think it was around 17.5%. Because I had a low roll, so it wasn't incredible on this one in particular. But the upper end was definitely not 21% at full upgrades before the changes. And the crit damage was also definitely higher. Like if you look at this ring, this crit damage used to be in the 30s. This Vuln used to be like 27, I think, or 26, like 25 or 27. Like the numbers really came down. You could see it in my sums. Like if you look at my sums of damage, you can really see how much they took out of the game. I'm down to only 175% vuln damage, as opposed to, I believe I was in the 220 range before. Like I mean, good damage bonus still, but like you could tell the nerf, or like down to 243, which it's worth noting. This does now include the fact that it's the glyph is global. Let me show you real quick. Where did I put it on this character? You would think I know where my own glyphs are because I did my entire tree myself. Oh yeah, here we go. Destruction is just 97% crit dam, and so if you look on here now, it actually shows in here finally. Oh shit, I gotta put it back. But still a lot of stat loss. I realized I didn't pull the screen down. Okay, good job, me. I'm not editing that out. But you can see here, 243 damage, 175 vuln. 243 damage is a little bit higher than I think I had when I left, but that's because it's including the glyph now. And vuln damage is definitely lower. CDR down to 33% feels terrible, or it doesn't feel terrible. Like I still feel very playable, but it's gonna be interesting how I feel about this in the new season with a fresh character who doesn't have all of the CDR gear already. I have a feeling I'm not gonna be the biggest fan. All right. A lot of other stuff in here, some generic changes, and then a lot of nodes get up buffed and nerfed in here. And I'm going to sum all of it up by using their dev note. Where is the line at in here? So blah, 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 blah. So they are supporting the here we go. We have seen that Ilvo players are frequently slaughtering monsters many levels above their own, and we want to support this. But the current situation is beyond what we believe to be correct for the long-term health of the game. And so to chase this goal, we are shifting power to offensive affixes from defensive affixes. This is really important. From defense to offense. And it's the understanding that, it's going to make the game harder because you're just going to die more. And so the majority of these are a lot of the generic percent damage bonuses that you're familiar with, like percentage to shadow damage, or percentage to blood skill damage, percentage to core skill damage. All of that stuff, yeah. Almost all of it, if not actually all of it. I'm too lazy to literally go confirm that every single one of them is mentioned in here, but they're all buffed somewhere between 25 and 40%. This is massive for the regular percent damage scaling in the game, especially to make it more competitive with the fact that Paragon glyphs and the Paragon board already provide a lot. Huge fan. And on the other side of that, total armor gets nerfed, as well as all of the DR nodes. Passes, which means your pants are just getting substantially less useful in terms of making you defensive. These are some changes, all right. So that is pretty much everything on here. And this is the max roll link. I will have this in the description so you can read it. You can also use a Blizzard link. I just like the max roll link because it has things that are they are like embedded properly, so I can hover over the names of passes and whatnot if I can't remember on the spot what they do. All right, so what do I actually think about the patch? Right? Oh wait, let me pull it back up. I closed it down. I realized I actually want to talk about one more thing from in here. Right? So what do I think about the patch? I think overall, I'm a big fan of this item section. I think it's going to feel weird being a little bit weaker in the end game. Like I've already felt it a little bit, and the defensive changes are going to take time to get used to. Then I have to retool my understanding of my defenses a little bit, think about some new approaches, but I'm overall very positive on this part of the philosophy. I think overall, the approach to this patch is correct from a game designer perspective. From a design perspective, I think dealing with itemization disparities first so that you can then focus on identities and how they interact with the itemization disparities in the game is exactly right. And for people who are reading these changes and are panicking, don't. I think, you'll notice that this actually makes the game progression feel a lot more smooth, if not just straight up better. Because early on, so you probably are thinking like in the long term, oh my god, my nerf they crit damage and vuln damage. But when you think about your early game character progression, you're not scaling crit dam and vuln dam and CDR like that yet. You're still thinking, percent damage and flat attributes are pretty good. And so getting buffs to the generic percent damage stats that you see on your gear early on, I think is going to be huge for having actually good items early on and moving your way through. This goes back to my video that I talked about when I talked about boosting your damage in that 50 to 70 rut. I'll put link down there as well if you want to see that. And I might have to update some of that information with these changes, or maybe I'll make a new version of that video. Let me know if you want me to make a new version of that video. But those changes, These changes make that point better, which is that percent damage is not as useless as you think it is. Percent damage in the mid game was already a very valuable stat for making a character feel good, and getting buffs to those stats are just going to make you feel better because you don't have insane crit damage yet. The vuln is going to suck. I'm not even going to lie. By the time you're between 50 and 60, you have pretty high vuln uptime, if not 100%. So you're going to feel the vuln nerves, but I don't think the crit ones are as big of a deal when you can then offset it with these new damage buffs. It's when you get into scaling long term that this might be a problem. And even then, this might just be an optimization thing where you no longer layer every bit of crit imaginable because now the diminishing returns on your crit mean that it will now fall off compared to percent damage. But that's math talk. I just wanted to say that I'm really positive on the item changes. I'm not very positive on the defense changes, however. And it's just because it's a shock. Like, we're gonna look back on this and I think say that it's not that bad later long term. It definitely like made me feel a type of way. Get it, seeing and feeling, even feeling the defensive nerfs a little bit. Just you are noticeably squishier, especially like for a Sork, you're relying on your cooldowns to live. Definitely squishier without your access to your cooldowns. But I haven't done hardcore thinking on how that this changes my build planning or any of my processes in terms of how to actually make myself survive. Because I went through this in PoE, I can do it here too. All right, my last major thought for this video, and I apologize for keeping y'all here forever, but thank you for sticking with me. You know, if you really, you must have really liked me. I love y'all. So my last major piece here is this line right here. Right? Remember I said that this was good for design purposes, focusing on your balance updates, focusing your early updates on itemization over class features. Now this is good from design, right? Itemization lays more of a foundation in your game than I think most people give it credit for. Itemization is really the core of how the game works itself out and scales itself on your concepts. And so you need to have a strong foundation on your scaling so that when you bring in the concepts don't destabilize the scaling in any way, shape, or form. Now, other side of that is I'm a goddamn player. You're a player. We're both players. I do not like this as a player because it means that I have to wait till season 2 to get the massive changes to the classes that I want to see, right? I wanted to see stuff like them addressing the fact that Sork has several Paragon boards that are just ineffective. Or, you know, like there's a glyph for Sork that boosts the cold damage modifiers on nearby nodes, and then you look around and there's one board with cold damage modifiers and there's one rare node to support. What? Like, there's a lot of the like actual class identity issues or class or build diversity issues amongst classes or class balance and stuff that just I don't love having to wait for another 3 months to have resolved. Both in the legendary nodes on many classes are many boards are lackluster. If you're a Sork, they're almost all trash. At least some other classes I've heard have good ones, but Sorks are all trash. As far as I'm concerned, at least this patch we've got a pseudo fix to the burning issue between the fact that damage reduction from burning got nerfed and the nerf to, you know, devouring blaze and stuff. Like, at least we were getting some changes in the direction of maybe burning isn't mandatory. But like, I want to see focused class changes on things like how Druid and leveling does not have the spirit necessary to facilitate its casting playstyle at all. Or how, how rogues' bows feel pretty bad compared to crossbows and daggers. How the stat distant as a whole does not feel like it has enough proper support in the game to make up for the fact that enemies naturally close the gap on you. How Sork, like, they're starting to address the Sork having 2 core skill classes, but like still, or the fact that Sork needs, like, it has too much reliance on its defenses because we don't have any defensive capabilities between our Paragon board and our tree and whatnot. I was having a discussion about this the other day, or maybe like a week or so ago, about how it's crazy that like I have like almost 6k armor on my Sork right now after the changes, and that's impressive. Even for 100 level 100 Sork, that's an impressive amount. But like everybody else, just trip, fell, sneeze, and has defenses. Necro, the fundamental issues of being a extremely slow class, or the fact that minions did not get enough love in this patch. Right? Like minions are viable, sure, but what about when you want to start as a minion character? Minions are extremely inconvenient. They still die to literally every ground effect known to man. Like there's a number of issues with each class in the game that just isn't hit on at all in these patch notes, and that really disappoints me. And so that's like my like complaint side of that line, but overall, I think this patch is pretty good. I think it's better that a patch like this came out in the early stages of the game. I think this would have been better as a like 2-3 weeks ago patch. But hey, is what it is. I'm just glad it's here before the game got too established on top of a bad foundation. Because I'm here for games that last, not games that fall that crash. And one last little piece before I sign out of here. I really appreciate Blizzard giving us 2 days extra to play with the patch before the season starts. Like the season's on Thursday, guys. The patch launched on Tuesday. That's awesome. I think that is incredible. I love it. And so I think that's also like it's another big thing. Being able to like log in, get some of the new uniques, some of the new aspects, and mess around with some stuff, see if anything changes my opinion, look around for footage and whatnot. Instead of being torn in the PoE fashion where it's like, man, I really want to just speed my league start through so that I can actually get established, especially if I'm playing trade, and then see what people figure out with all the new stuff. I get to actually just look and see what the new stuff does before patch. All right, that's all. Genuinely, thank you for watching. Very long video. Sorry about that. If you want to catch me live, I will be streaming Diablo Thursday night. I won't be streaming like immediately because that is in the middle of my workday. And even work from home, I have too many things going on. In my field to get to just like take off the entirety of the day, basically. So I'll get that. I'll get to that stuff. I'll get to the stream probably. I'll probably start earlier than usual on Thursday, but check the description for the link. I'm live Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I just take Wednesdays off for work and Sunday off for mental health, but sometimes I stream on Sundays. We stream in the evening, CST, like pretty late actually, but like, post dinner type vibes. Just come through, hang out. We'll be streaming D4. It's going to be a good time. Hopefully the season lasts. If I don't see you there, have a great season anyways. Peace out.